is the actual problem in healthcare in India. India is a paradox. On the one hand, we have centers of excellence where people come from all over the world. Last year, about 125,000 people came to India, not for treatment of cough and cold, but for treatment of complicated, failed surgery. Apollo Hospitals alone has done 7 cardiac and liver transplants for white Americans. We have white, not NRIs, we have white Americans standing here waiting for a transplant. So this is complex procedures which we do on a routine basis. However, the sad fact remains that in a recent ranking of healthcare, India ranks 120 out of 140 people, 140 countries. Now, lack of organized delivery, lack of skilled workforce, these are the main problems. I believe that a solution is not a solution unless it is universally available to everyone, everywhere, all the time. The only way we can do this, to even think of providing quality healthcare to 1.3 billion people, is technology-driven healthcare transformation. Not in the lifetime of my great-great-grandchildren will there be enough doctors, nurses, paramedics, whatever you have to cater to this population. I'm just going to spend 2 minutes on what exactly is telemedicine. Telemedicine is an umbrella term given to all the factors which go in to provide remote health care. Gone are the days when a patient has to sit physically in front of a doctor. I have been practicing telemedicine, introducing telemedicine, evangelizing telemedicine for the last 2 decades. And if you split it up, this is what you require. Obviously, you require a patient. Interestingly, in 2020, we don't use the word patient anymore. We use the word beneficiary. And a dividend declaring company like Apollo Hospitals, whose bottom line is ROI, at the end of the day it's all about ROI. They believe that in the future more dividends will be given to shareholders of the company by making all you people healthy, creating wellness, the E way. Now everything is, the letter E is prefixed. So that is going to be modern medicine. In fact, I told Dr. Pratap Reddy several years ago, I said, sir, the 130,000 open heart surgeries which have been done here with a 99.5% success rate, 95% of these open heart surgeries could have been avoided completely, need not have been done at all. The whole concept of medical profession, when I was a medical student, a postgraduate, as a teacher, I was taught to make a diagnosis and treat. Today, we think that we want you to be healthy. We want to prevent diseases, and we are going to make more money keeping you healthy rather than making you go through surgery, other than trauma. So for telemedicine, distance is meaningless. My favorite statement is, geography, ladies and gentlemen, has become history. Today we no longer talk about geography at all. All that I require is hardware, peripheral medical devices. You're all familiar with a glucometer. Today, with that same drop of blood, I don't need a professor of surgery to take a drop of blood. I don't even need a nurse. I don't even need a school dropout. I can teach the patient, an 85-year-old grandmother, to take a drop of blood. And using the appropriate technology, I can do renal function tests, liver function tests, 32 different tests I can do with a drop of blood. Believe me, laboratories will become obsolete. Laboratories as we know them today will become obsolete in just 10 years from now. You require software, electronic medical records, hospital information systems. It is very sad that even today, the elite of Madras city, including doctors, engineers, chartered accountants, with all these people, none of us, even myself, I just don't have my old medical records when I went to a doctor 20 years ago or 30 years ago. That is going to change. Everything is going to be available in what is called an MPHR, Mobile Personal Health Record. It's going to be stored in the cloud, and from my mobile phone, I'll be able to access it. The third thing is connectivity. Obviously, without the internet, the world does not exist. So based on connectivity, I can acquire an image. I don't need a person to come to Chennai to get a CT scan done. There are tens of thousands of CT scans in India today, but we do not have even hundreds of radiologists to report these scans. So we need very good connectivity. Acquisition of an image, storage of an image, retrieval of the image, display of the image. These are all the factors which go into making telemedicine. The world has become totally mobile. I'm sure all of you working in offices, corporations, etc. will realize that desktops have become obsolete. Everybody uses laptops. Laptops are slowly going away. Tablets are becoming phablet, as you call it. Combination of a phone and a tablet is going to become more and more sophisticated. So this is what we're going to use. Now the stage has come in the next 2-3 years, we hope. Until now, unfortunately, there are no regulations, there's no legality about it. Some of us are working very hard trying to get the Telehealth Act of India passed. Hopefully in 2-3 years we will succeed. You need to be compliant with regulations. And again, philanthropy, unfortunately, can at the best initiate a project. Over the last 20 years, I have seen hundreds of telemedicine projects inaugurated with great fanfare. Ribbon cut, local MLA, photographs, newspaper, newsletters. It dies a natural death in 3 to 6 months. Obituary notice is written. There are very few telemedicine units in the country which are self-sustaining. The only way to make this self-sustaining is revenue generation. Profit is not a dirty word. Unless vitamin M, ever since the Phoenicians invented money, let's not be hypocrites. The only difference between Mukesh Ambani and me is that in my bank account and his bank account, there are 10 more zeros in his bank account than mine. That is the only difference. If I have 1 crore, he has got 100,000 crores. That is the only difference. It's all the number game. So unless there is an incentive to incentivize to somebody, let us not be hypocrites. I mean, a tender loving care, washing tears off your face, a doctor. Why only a doctor? When a judge can charge 20 lakhs, an advocate, a Supreme Court advocate can charge 20 lakhs to get an adjournment. Why can't a doctor charge 5,000 rupees? A doctor is considered to be a noble profession. So these concepts are changing. So unfortunately, as of today, we still have not developed a business model. The excess of income over expenditure, you plow that excess of income back into the unit. That is what we are doing. I was the only loss-making department in the Apollo group, entire group, for 15 years, from 2000 to 2015. But Dr. Pratap Reddy and his daughters, with a fantastic vision, they were more confident than I was. They knew that the day will come when we will not only strike even, we will slowly start making profits. Today, as I'll show you now, the last 2-3 years, we have not only are we struck even, we are slowly having a slight excess of income over expenditure, which we are plowing back into the field. Now, the world is turned, the world upside down. This is a beautiful book. I strongly recommend you to read the book. It was written by Lord Nigel Crisp, the former CEO of NHS, the world's largest health service system. So in the book, Turning the World Upside Down, he shows how UK, US, the most advanced countries in the world have benefited, reverse engineering. They are copying what is being done in rural India. And this is what the NHS now practices. Traditionally, for the last 70 years, if you want to call it, we have had a pyramid. We have a primary health center. We have 642 districts in India, about 35,000 primary health centers, community center, taluk headquarters, district hospital, a state medical college, maybe a state institute, and then at the peak will be the All India Institute of Medical Sciences and its equivalent. That, ladies and gentlemen, is totally turned. Today we talk about the inverted pyramid, the informed, wired up citizen community. I so vividly remember in 82 when I was in Stanley Medical College, I used to tell somebody, "Moolayila katti irukappa, operation odane pannom, naalaiku pannom." Sari sir, matter over, chapter closed. Today when a patient comes to me, he asks me questions which I did not face in my PhD, Viva Voce. He asked me, why don't you do this procedure? What about that procedure? The BMJ says 11.2% morbidity in this procedure, because Professor Google and Dr. Facebook have ensured that he has access to almost the same information which I have access to. 20 years ago, the doctor was put on a pedestal because it was assumed that I am a demigod. And when I say you need surgery, period, full stop. Now it's not like that. The whole world has totally changed because of this. So this is what is going to happen. The day is not far off when a primary health center will have an ultrasound. 1 in 10 primary health centers will have a CT scan. 3 days ago, there was a meeting in Delhi where they were discussing the Ayushman Bharat, the world's biggest universal health coverage project. 150,000 wellness centers are going to be started by the government of India, 30,000 every year, and every one of these wellness centers will be connected through a telemedicine network. So this is the India we are talking about. This has already been mentioned. Bill Clinton came, formally inaugurated March 2000. For the first couple of years, we were indeed the pioneers in the world, literally, and people from all over the world used to come and see what we were doing. The President of Nigeria, Prime Minister of Mauritius, we had delegations from Amsterdam, Europe, etc. Now, just to give you one or two very simple examples, if you can read from there, this is 2002. This is a photograph I took in 2002. To any neurosurgeon, trained neurosurgeon, it takes me 2.5 minutes, 150 seconds to do a detailed neurological examination sufficient for me to make a diagnosis with a 99% assurance. All I ask is, you can see here, I ask the patient to look to the left, I ask him to look to the right, I even can look at his tonsils, I can look at his 9th nerve, at his 10th nerve. All that is required is a camera to be focused appropriately. And remember, 2002, the technology was primitive compared to what it is now. So just look here, I am able to do a detailed exam. And again, another couple of seconds for me to decide that this small white spot which you see on the CT scan is what we call a hemorrhagic contusion in the brain. But because the boy is doing so well, no treatment is required, absolutely nothing is required. It takes me 3.5 minutes to do this. Unfortunately, in the real world, I published a paper 4 years ago which has been downloaded about 13,000 times so far, which is now used as a reference paper. I conclusively showed that 937 million Indians, as recently as October 2014, lived in areas in India, postal code, where there was not a single neurologist or neurosurgeon. Madras city has 135 neurosurgeons and 140 neurologists. Apollo Hospital's Department of Neurosurgery and Neurology has more consultants than the whole of Assam. The whole of northeastern India, 7 states, do not have specialists as we have in Madras city. The same is true of Delhi, Bombay, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, etc. India's specialists cater only to the metros and to the big cities. Now a few, 5% of specialists are in tier 3 cities, but absolutely no one below a tier 3 city. You can't blame the doctors alone. What will I do unless I have a CT scan, unless I have an MRI, unless I have an operation theatre, and so on. This is one of my favorite slides which I've been showing for 15 years. This was in Port Blair, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. I had gone there to give a talk on telemedicine at the invitation of the Chief Secretary there. 3 weeks later, I get a phone call in my house from a very smart, intelligent CT scan technician would listen to my talk. 2003, world was primitive at that time. There was only one internet connectivity in one only IAS officer who was Chief Secretary, come Home Secretary, come Finance Secretary, etc., etc. So this boy said, you are talking so much of telemedicine, I have an unconscious patient, there is no doctor here, can you help? I said, do you have a mobile phone? He said, no. I said, do you have a digital camera? He said, no. I said, can you borrow it from somebody? He said, yes. He went, took a camera in my house, right in my house, he showed these photographs to me. It's very slow internet, about 128 kbps per minute, nothing like what we have today. But I could, this is all that I wanted to see. Both the pupils were reacting well to light. I asked him to pinch the left leg, and I asked him, is the left leg moving? He said, yes. Right leg is moving, hand, face, etc. That's all. Then is he groaning? Is he making some sounds? Yes. Is he able to talk? No. Is he able to recognize you? No. He's making some sounds? Yes. And then the CT scan here shows, you can see again a very small confusion in the brain, patient deeply unconscious. To a trained doctor, we know there's a lot of pressure inside the brain here. So I told him, okay, start him on mannitol, 20%, so much, etc., etc. And just as we predicted, in 3 days he became fine. One of the happiest moments of my life was 2 months later, I had totally forgotten about this. 2 months later, in my consulting room in Apollo Hospital, somebody comes with a basket of apples. I mean, very, very unlikely that Madras city patients never show their gratitude. You know, it's a fact of life. It's a fact of life. Even today I know it. I'm digressing, but I think it's important. We once went to Mahabalipuram. My family went to Mahabalipuram. 13 of us we went. I mean, I feel so emotional when I talk about this. We asked for some Yelani, tender coconut. He gave us, and then he didn't take any money from me. He said, look, what is this? He said, sir, you operated on my daughter. I just don't remember GH. I said, okay. I presume the girl was doing well, otherwise why should he give? He said, when was this? He said, 7 years ago. I said, how is the daughter? Is she fine? Illa sir, poitanga. No, what happened? Illa ne kaaleyila 5 manike poitanga. Na enna sir pannuvom kadavul avladhaan vidichu neenga raatri fulla neenga raatri 9 la irundhu kaaleyila 3 mani vara panneenga avladhaan. No, I was here is a man whose monthly income probably was 1,000 rupees a month, giving me 13 tender coconuts free of cost as a gratitude when his daughter died. That is one story. Other stories, vice admirals in the Indian Navy, deeply comatose, boy operated, 1.5 months kept in a hospital, discharged completely all right. Doctors will not settle at all. And when you see him in some social program, they don't even look at you. See, because they think you have done your duty, you are paid for it. I mean, it's a commercial transaction. So that is the difference between the so-called elite of society and, that's beside the point. So this guy came with a basket full of apples and said, I understand that you are responsible for my becoming all right. Thank you, sir. So this is the power of telemedicine. We can all do this in a couple of minutes. Here is another actual story. Imagine, I hope none of you will ever go through this. I have gone through this dozens and dozens of times when I was in Stanley particularly. A person like this was going to die in another 7 minutes, 15 minutes. Do any of you know what it is to take a dead body in a vehicle across outposts? Even normally to go through an outpost, you have to bribe everybody. When you have a dead body without a medical certificate, it is hell. It will take, I'm talking of 1991, it used to cost 10,000 rupees in 1991 to hire a vehicle to take somebody from Washington at Stanley to Chittoor or Nellore. So this was a reverse case. This was a patient near Aragonda. They contacted me. I said, use a photograph, use a camera, just send me the film. Then I said, you write there in record. The local MBBS doctor didn't want to do it. I said, I take the full responsibility. Dr. Ganapathy, senior consultant neurosurgeon Apollo, saw this patient through video conferencing such and such a time. He is of the opinion that the patient is critical and no purpose will be served. There is no chance of this patient living. And for the following reasons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he is advised not to be transferred to a tertiary center. Exactly as predicted, 10 minutes later the patient died. Now, the family was smart, the family was very intelligent. They understood that with a single comment, I had saved them tens of thousands of rupees, not only as cash, but more important, the agony of taking them to Hyderabad and bringing back a dead body. This is the power of telemedicine. 2 minutes of my time, 3 minutes of my time. We have thousands and thousands of doctors. I have suggested several times, why can't a doctor give 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month? Give me 200 doctors. Why can't the Rotary take up this? Give me 200 doctors and ask each doctor to spare 2 hours a month, gratis. No doctor is below the poverty line. This is the least he can do. I will take the full responsibility of arranging for technology, arranging there, everything. All I want is a volunteer list of 100 doctors, 200 doctors of different specialties. We can make compulsory virtual rural health posting. Government has tried rural health posting dozens and dozens of times and failed miserably. Why can't the government introduce a compulsory virtual rural health posting? These are all so simple. Unfortunately, they are just not being done. Switch on this. When I tell you, switch on that. Now. Okay. Now. No amount of description. A mobile phone, every entry-level mobile phone has this. Now, when I see this, when this is shown to me, it takes me seconds to make the correct diagnosis. When I don't have the video, after all, 99% of people when they come to a doctor for convulsions, for seizures, they don't have fits. You don't see the fit, it's only by hearsay, by description that you diagnose it as a fit. There are different types of fits, and each fit has got a different type of treatment. So see, this is the power of telemedicine. All that is required is a video. Now again, I also want to share with you my failures. I think they are much more important. Generally, all of us talk about all the great things we have achieved. We are very reluctant to share our failures. This was one of my biggest failures. Of course, my only happiness is happiness in inverted commas, that other people far higher than me or as knowledgeable as me also fail. So this was in 2003 or 2004. Philips donated this hospital on wheels. 2003, the world was totally different. We spent a lot of effort and time, designed the interior of the building, got an X-ray machine, got an ultrasound, microbiology lab, that, this, put up a VSAT, spoke to the chairman of ISRO, first time in India. ISRO put up a VSAT, everything we did, we were absolutely thrilled, photographs, videos, newspaper, that thing, this thing, we were on top of the world. The idea was that the hospital on wheels goes on Monday to this village, Tuesday to this village, Wednesday to this village, and so on and so forth. This project was designed with ISRO engineers, automobile engineers, MBAs, telemedicine specialists like me, etc. None of us even thought about the height of branches of trees in villages. So when this guy went into a village, the trees were there, the branches were lower down, and it hit the VSAT. The VSAT got displaced just 4 inches. So in 4 inches the VSAT gets displaced, the signals are lost. And we don't know how to reset a VSAT in 2003. There was no precedence. ISRO said, well, who is going to give the TADA? Is he on duty? Is he on leave? This is a private company. Who is going to sanction it? RTO did not register this. RTO said, no, what will I register? It's not an ambulance, it's not a car, it's not an auto rickshaw, it's not a lorry, it's not a truck, it's not a bus. We did not anticipate all this. We spent all our time looking at the technical part. We had to use everything possible, meet the transport secretary, meet that person, meet this person. At last we created a new thing called hospital on wheels. Today, of course, there are several hundred like this, but this was all the learning curve. Again, it is my privilege to have been associated with the Indian Army very closely. 2002, I met the GOC, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka area, Major General Anup Chambal. He later became the Adjutant General of India. I had operated on one of the armed forces officers, so he came to visit, see a colonel, and then I literally challenged him. He was fantastic. He took the challenge, and within 2 months, we set up telemedicine units for the entire Indian Army in the Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka area. 27 units we set up. He did it. I told him, we helped him, but he did it. Unfortunately, as happens in the real world, and then when he was promoted as GOC in C, he continued to invite me, and here you can see one of my favorite photographs, only civilian here with about 40 very senior officers addressing them, telling them that this is how you do telemedicine. But we were too far ahead of the time, and when General Jamwal retired, everything went fat, it was totally gone. Of course, it has been revived about a year earlier, but for 15 years, nothing was done absolutely. I'm going to tell you a few, please stop me whenever you think, because I lose all concept of time. Anytime you get fed up with me, just either throw stones or eggs or just say stop. I'll stop immediately. Now, I'm just going to show you 4 or 5 practical examples to show that I'm not talking theory. I'm frustrated, I'm terribly frustrated. I'm not delighted that we have done so many things. I'm terribly frustrated that we have not done that which could be done. We are still in the stage of pilotitis. Pilots, proof of concept validation. I always say there are more pilots in telemedicine than there are in the Indian Air Force. Why should we continue to have pilots? Why can't? Now we have proved proof of concept beyond all doubt. 20 years we have proved it. It's time that this becomes incorporated into the core of the healthcare delivery system. This is Himachal Pradesh. I've been here thrice. My wife has accompanied me once here, 14,000 feet high. No one-way traffic, nothing. A vehicle comes like this. This is the real world. 4,000 feet depth. For 5 months in a year, the temperature is -25, -30, landslide, roads cut off completely. No doctor wants to live there. The government of Himachal Pradesh gave a salary double that to the Cabinet Secretary of India. The salary doubled that to the Cabinet Secretary for very low-level assistant medical officer. No, nobody would go. Then we took up the challenge. I made a presentation to the Chief Secretary, convinced him to, though it is public money, without calling for a tender. I said, as a pilot on an appointment basis, give me 1 year's time, and these are the actual expenses we will incur. We are not looking at profits. I don't have money to invest. You give me the actual expenses. A wonderful Chief Secretary, was retired now. He took up the challenge, agreed. I had to sign all sorts of documents, including that if we did not, roles and responsibilities, deliverables, etc. If my consultants did not appear on the screen within the prescribed 45 minutes, Apollo Hospitals as a group would be blacklisted from any tenders or contracts. I did not ask my boss's permission. I just signed and told my bosses later, because I said, sir, I have already signed this, so unless I have your help, Apollo Hospitals will be blacklisted. So that was a strategy I took. And today it is 5 years since we did this. We are now being used all over the world, and here you can see, and we are totally paperless, totally digital. If I had the time right now, I take out my smartphone, click onto this, and I will get you this evening, 4 o'clock. If somebody had gone to one of my 4 centers, we will get it here. You can see this is on 19th April 2019. I mean, with white hair, I'm getting a little lazier. Otherwise, I would have got a slide statistics till this morning. This is the amount of data we have. We have published several papers. We have presented this in several conferences around the world. I very strongly believe that you must be proactive, not wait for diseases to occur. This is Rahul and Spiti is India's largest district in terms of geographical size. Interestingly, the population density in this district is 4 per kilometer. The nearest neighbor is 1 kilometer away. Contrary to popular perception, I've been in GH for 15 years. I know how GH works. 10,000 outpatients coming to Government General Hospital every day. It's not a big deal at all. We can provide health care. But providing health care to 4 people who are 1 kilometer away from the next to 4 people is a nightmare, particularly with a small population. So what did we do? We went house to house. I have a wonderful team. I mean, I give all the lectures, I take all the credit, but I have a fantastic team, but for whom nothing would ever have been done. So these people at temperatures of 0 degrees, -5 degrees, etc. went house by house, and then you can see this is an old slide, but even this outreach program, we call it 6,604 people. We went to their houses, took a drop of blood and showed to the government of Himachal Pradesh that 58% of women whom we surveyed were anemic. Biochemically they were anemic. Clinically it was just put down to old age or high altitude, you'll have difficulty in breathing. You see, the trouble with India is we are all fatalists, oriental fatalism I call it. When you are 85 years old, we don't understand that an 85-year-old man can also have a brain tumor, can also have a treatable condition. We don't sufficiently investigate him. Above 70, you are written off. You think it's not worth doing anything at all. This concept is to change. So this is what we did here. Now, this is a practical demonstration. Sorry about this. Now, this is what the power of telemedicine, this one. In the last one. See, they say that the fool with the tool is still a fool. So technology alone is. Now here is a practical example, and again because of my academic background, I insist that everything should be photographed, videoed, recorded. Now see what is happening at the real world. I had a patient in Himachal Pradesh, 14,000 feet altitude, who had a condition called supraventricular tachycardia, whose pulse rate was 250 per minute. The only way we could save his life was by an external defibrillation. Our regular nurse was on leave that day. How could I have predicted this? And the girl who was there was not even a nurse. She could not spell the word defibrillator. She had never seen a defibrillator in her life. But we told our doctors, look, you have a webcam, you have internet, we are desperate. Go ahead, tell them what to do. I will take the full responsibility. And here you can see, we demonstrated. The head of the emergency medicine department, we got a mannequin. We have a superb emergency department. So we got a mannequin. We demonstrated with the nurse, not even a nurse, with a little young girl in Himachal Pradesh watching this. We told her this is how you do it, and she followed instructions, and the patient's pulse rate came down from 250 to 110, and the next day he was discharged. So this is the power of telemedicine. Where in the world can you do this on a Saturday evening at 15,000 feet height in the Himalayas with a doctor in Madras supervising? Similarly, we have also treated 7 cases of myocardial infarction. Person comes with a chest pain, ECG done. I'm all talking the Himalayas. ECG normal. But my doctors are very good, so they said, I don't like the look of that guy's face, he just doesn't look well, don't send him back, keep him there, repeat the ECG after an hour. We repeated the ECG after an hour. At that time we didn't have blood test, today we have blood test. The second ECG taken 1 hour later showed an ST segment wave elevation. In other words, we picked up a heart attack as it was evolving. And we initiated thrombolysis from here. 7 people like this we have treated in the last 4 years of heart attacks as they were evolving. All this has been published. Now, before we intervene, you know how difficult it is both in the private sector and the government sector to get permission, approvals, regulations, etc. to get a helicopter. Before we intervene, about 29 to 32 helicopter evacuations should be done every year, and that was a massive effort to get permission and approvals. After we went, it came down to 9 per year, and these 9 per year also, the time interval between decision for a helicopter evacuation and implementing it was less than 2 to 3 hours, whereas prior to our intervention it would take 12 hours to 18 hours. So this is what a dedicated staff can do. These are the statistics just to tell you. NTPC, you may be familiar, National Thermal Power Corporation, a Maharatna company. This particular thermal power factory was in the borderland of Assam and China. I have been there once. 5% of India's thermal power is generated from this factory, and it is so sophisticated that there are only 2,500 employees. However, it was considered a punishment posting. Node was a disturbed area, Maoist area. Every now and then there would be deaths, kidnapping, arson, ransom, you name it, and it was there. It was considered a punishment post. Executive director reached a stage where he said we have to close down the factory. No person was willing to go there because of lack of health care. So we took up the challenge, we went there. I have my own staff there, it was outsourced to us. So I have 1 doctor, 2-3 nurses, 2 physiotherapists, 1 X-ray technician, about 10 people, and you can see the numbers have grown up steadily, and NTPC is so happy with us, we are now going to introduce it in other centers. This is teleradiology services, almost about 75 patients per day we report. This is ICU. Contrary to popular belief that telemedicine is only of use in rural areas, in the Himalayas, etc., it also can be used in big cities. Apollo Hospital's ICU Hyderabad is like NASA Mission Center. It's a big control command center. I have a wonderful doctor called Sai Harinath. He is connected to almost 35 intensive care units in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, and he helps other general medicine anesthetists, etc. This is where I would love to be associated with the Rotary. This is a major project which we are doing for Landmark. I'm sure all of you know about Landmark. CSR responsibility, CSR funding, about 4 crores a year. We have been doing it for the last 4 years, and thanks to their donation, 8,72,000 people we have screened using technology. We have diagnosed about 14% of them have raised blood sugar. So many have anemia, that, this, etc., including breast cancer screening. The only difference is we use technology. The difference is this paper was again published just 2 months ago in one of the most prestigious journals of the world. For the first time in the world, I'm sure many of you are aware of camps. Rotary, I know, encourages and supports a lot of camps. I personally don't like camps too much because in a camp you make something and that's the end of it. You need to follow it up, otherwise there's no purpose. So we give follow-up then and there. What do? Very simple. I go with a dongle. Today for 1,000 rupees you can get a 3G dongle. I go with a laptop. With a laptop and a dongle, I connect through the internet to my staff in Hyderabad, and you can see here 13,000 people who we discovered in a camp mode had raised blood sugar. Within 1 hour of their having a prick of drop of blood, we connected them to MD, general medicine, MBBS doctors, nutritional specialists, etc., and advised them what is to be done for healthcare. The world's largest public-private partnership with the government of Andhra Pradesh. 115 existing eye care centers which are not doing well. See, the morale was different, the culture is different. That is where public-private partnerships have a tremendous influence. I mean, any private organization, the way we approach, the lack of red tapeism, the lack of bureaucracy, I can hire, fire, I can give somebody double promotion, I can reduce his salary, I can double his salary based on incentive-based performance, etc., etc. So the government entrusted it to us, and you can see as of 2 weeks ago, in less than 15 months, 64 weeks, we have seen 9,34,000 patients in 115 centers. About 20 to 25 come every day, 6 days of the week per center, and this is where we use technology. You can see here 222,000 people had their fundus. I don't know how many of you are familiar. We have an instrument called an ophthalmoscope where I can look inside the eye into the brain without vitreatics. I mean, none of you are so young. I'm sure all of you have gone to an eye doctor, and I'm sure most of you have had eye drops put into your eye, waited for your eyes to be checked. That is all history. Today we have what is called a non-vitreatic fundus camera. This fundus camera can turn. It can watch the back of your eye, the top of your eye, the bottom of your eye, 360 degrees completely in color. The interesting part is, I have 30 ophthalmologists in Chennai who look inside the eye in 115 villages from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and capture by clicking a button. They capture a color photograph of the interior of the eye, and in exactly 8 minutes I get a printout. The image is sent to my staff in these centers. The technician there takes a printout, computer generated, no signature. We write there, computer generated, signature not required, and in 8 minutes we have data for this. Any of you are most welcome to come and inspect it. In 8 minutes you get a color printout annotations with the report, unsigned report, computer generated report. Nowhere in the world can this be done like this, free of cost. The patient does not pay a pie. Government pays the money, government outsources to us, and we in turn implement and execute the project on behalf of the government. We also provide spectacles. You can, I don't know the exact spectacles. 6,70,000 spectacles were delivered in 16 months. And the government is so fantastic, it gives you a choice of 15 different frames. It allows the man or the woman to choose what frame. Spectacles are manufactured somewhere else. We are now in very advanced stage of discussion with 2 companies and with Anna University. Hopefully in a year we will be using drones to supply spectacles, because we find that we are not able to keep up to the very strict timelines offered, insisted by the government. I am not able to get a courier service sufficient to do this. So we think that drones probably is the answer. So this is how it is seen. This is the village center, CHC center, and here are my consultants in Madras looking at the fundus of the eye and reporting it immediately. Another major project, you can see a dashboard. The government has full access to this dashboard. The Chief Minister himself, Chandrababu Naidu, on at least 3 occasions which we know personally, he asked his secretary to connect him to one of the beneficiaries. The 9 lakh beneficiaries, 85%, 90% of the mobile phones, all recorded. The CM himself talks to them and asks them what is their experience, how it is. And our contract is such that we have a third-party audit, external agency, a totally external agency audits each and every, these SOP, systems and processes, everything is broken down to almost 250 components, and an external agency can audit at any time, anywhere, and unless we score 99.7% of the marks which they have decided, we do not get the full contract. The first couple of months we lost about 10, 15, 20 lakhs every month. We have reached 96, 97, but we have still not been able to reach the 99.5% marks which they want. So here again, one thing I am very delighted is my entire staff is paranoid about quality control. I mean, this is something which has permeated down the generations, starting from Dr. Pratap Reddy, I think for the last 35 years. People may have a lot of things to say about Apollo, not necessarily good, but nobody can accuse it or find fault with it for their obsession with quality control. So here we do tele-quality control. You can see here 43 lakh laboratory tests which we ensure that the results are absolutely fine. So these are all the huge numbers, huge figures, etc. These are new projects we started in Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Bhopal, innovation, container on wheels connected to a tempo traveler. So this container on wheels is in one road on Monday, another road on Tuesday, etc. with a VSAT on top, this thing is given. This is our first project with the US University of Pittsburgh. So we do a total turnkey project. We starting from an absolute desolated area, we end up into a first class telemedicine center. This is MS Swaminathan Research Foundation. Most of you know about Professor Swaminathan. He very kindly agreed to collaborate with us about 4 years ago. And you can just look at the body language. Twice a month from my department, we connect to about 15 to 20 villages using multi-point video conferencing. We talk in Tamil with PowerPoint presentations, animations, videos, etc. About 20 to 30 people per village. This is what I believe is going to happen in the next couple of years, very soon, and I'm sure many of you people are going to see this. Most officers, this has just started in Western countries, and in my earlier talks I used to say that India never follows the West. I used to say we don't even piggyback, we leapfrog. Now I have changed that completely. How much can a frog leap? So I say we are now pole vaulting. We are far ahead of the West in most places. But unfortunately, we are not very good in image consultancy, PROs. I don't have PROs. I mean, it so happened you invited me, I've come and spoken to you about this. 99% of the people who need to know about this have no idea about this at all. So telemedicine units and offices, miniaturization. Today all of us are familiar. You drop a 20 rupee note and you get a Pepsi or something. The same technology, same thing. You will be able to check your blood pressure. You will be able to check it. Today, 100-story building is coming in North Madras. Madras city has got so many multi-story complexes like this, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. They have already embarked on a project where we intend to put telemedicine centers in most of these high apartment complexes. So the paradigm shift, who will be the primary care team of the future? It is time. The time has now come where you need to take more important care of your health rather than me. Why should I come and measure your blood pressure? Why should I come and check your blood sugar? Are you not intelligent enough? Are you not concerned about your health? So this is one thing which is going to change. Insurance companies' premiums are going to be different based on how much healthcare you look after yourself. So the whole world is shifting. We now talk about e-patients. E-patients see themselves as equal partners in healthcare decisions. So gone are the days. This is my favorite slide. I now, having been with technology for the last 35 years, when you grow white hair, you reach a stage where you think, have I done the right thing in becoming a neurosurgeon, a cardiac surgeon, treating a few thousand people? Would I not have made a bigger impact if I had done something like this? This is my staff. Just can you imagine Apollo hospitals going into the villages, having its own staff and educating tens of thousands of people on what to do and what not to do. So this is the future, and again I am delighted that we are way ahead of most countries in the world. We will be the 4th country in the world to send its astronauts in just 2 years from now. Of course, we have, from my academic background, lots of papers have been published, textbooks have been written. Columbia University recently used us. 2 chapters were devoted entirely to what Apollo telemedicine has been done. And I am absolutely happy that we have been asked as a question, what are the contributions of ATNF? This was to the master's degree program, the same program which Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton studied in Columbia University Public Relations. Today ATNF is featured there. So by 2022, Google, IBM, Microsoft, Apple, Uber, they will be the major healthcare providers, not Apollo hospitals. So today, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are, the largest medical center response in India, ATH's office in Hyderabad. And so from a neurosurgeon who started telemedicine as a hobby in 1998, 21 years ago, the remote healthcare division of the Apollo Hospitals Group has almost 3,000 employees today. Our division alone has 3,000 employees. These are the wonderful people who made all this possible, senior managers, vice presidents and so on and so forth. About 100 of them who made all this possible. So you would have guessed very correctly, the baby on the top is preparing for the NEET exam, the IIT JEE, Anna University exam, etc. The octogenarians at the bottom belong to a district in Kerala. United Nations has formally declared it the world's first 100% computer literate district. And who says India is a backward country? When somebody says we are third world developing country, I mean, I get mad. I think we are far ahead of most other countries in the world. So I know you're all getting restless. This is the last slide. Somebody sabotage. This is the punch slide. It's not coming. Okay. A medical student, a postgraduate, a father, a grandfather, I was taught and I was told when a 6-week-old baby cries, the first thing is koyandhukku amma kooptu paal kudukka sollu, koyandh's baby is hungry. That was what we were taught. Those days there were no diapers, so the second diagnosis was the baby has passed urine and is lying in urine. Intuitively the baby starts to use a touch screen. Just look at that. Just look at that. Nobody has trained this child. See, look at that. Let's look at that face. Look at that smile. Look at that happiness. So, this is what in scientific terms I would call a double-blind randomized control study in science. This is what we call it. So this is the world we are living in. So unless you understand this, remember that the future is always ahead of schedule. Unless you become future ready, we will go far, far away. Thank you very much for doing this.